What up, and welcome to LSU Live on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Lewis Johnson, and we got a huge show today. Um, LSU has been in fall camp for 5 days now. We got news. It's something to talk about every day from camp. And also, we got a huge weekend of recruiting that just happened. Picked up 2 defensive tackles. So it's a lot to talk about. We got a big show. And we got a lot to be encouraged about so far in camp. It's still early. You don't want to get carried away, but we've seen some good things. I think most would agree that last couple of years, LSU's Achilles heel has been the defense. I think we're pretty confident in the offense, assuming that the offensive line can come through early on. But we'll start on the defense and what we've been seeing there. We got some interesting developments so far. And we got probably 3 big takeaways that I want to mention about camp so far. The first one is going to start with the defensive line group. This is going to be a deep group, an older group, considering the guys that got thrown in the fire last year, like Ahmad Bro, Dominic McKinley, but you also get Guillory back. So fall camp started with Bro and McKinley as your starting D tackles. And we know it's going to be a lot of rotation going on there. Starters don't really mean that much other than just the label as a starter. Everybody will play. The big thing is you're going to be deeper. Saturday, you had an extended period for the media to watch. You had Jacoby and Guillory along with Bro at one of those starting spots. This is big because Guillory brings something to that group that none of the other guys have. Guillory is bigger, he's stronger, and he's not that typical 4-3 disruptive tackle like a Kyle Williams. He's more of a space seater, occupy guys, keep your linebackers clean. So getting Guillory back at full speed after his injury last year is going to be huge for this defense. He started Saturday. Brian Kelly spoke about the development of McKinley after the first day of practice. And we started to see McKinley come on towards the end of last year. So you got to have difference makers at that position. And I think LSU is well on their way to having difference makers and going 3 deep at that position. You got 6 guys that you can play, a few that are really going to be difference makers and a few others that you can count on as far as depth pieces. You still get back Sean Washington, and you got Shadir Mitchell out of Texas from the transfer portal, who was another big body like Guillory. It's not quite as impactful as Guillory to this point, but he's still growing too. Another D tackle that we don't want to forget about is Bernard Gooden. Bernard Gooden had a big day Saturday. He was disruptive. He was letting them know about it, but he talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. So Gooden was a good pickup when LSU recruited 5 D tackles, 3 out of high school for the 25 class. You were kind of surprised to see Gooden come into the class after the spring. But apparently LSU had a competitive NIL package. Got him here, and he's making a difference. He'll be a big part of that rotation for LSU. Outside of your tackles, your starting D-line as a whole, yeah, Jack Pyburn, of course, Bro and Guillory, like I said earlier, and Gabe Relaford at end. Your ends are also going to rotate. You're going to see a lot of Patrick Payton out of Florida State. Guys like that. You still have guys that have been in the program that are coming along like Dylan Carpenter. But you also saw an interesting lineup on Saturday in team periods where they had a pass rush specialist type of package. You had Pyburn moving inside, and you had Kalaj Cobbins, a redshirt freshman out of Destrehan at one end. You had Gooden also inside, and you had Patrick Payton at the other end. And just to give you a little synopsis on Saturday, the defense won today. The defense dominated on Saturday, and that offense had a lot of trouble with that pass, that what we used to call a cheetah package back in the Bo Pelini days. But Yeah, they're showing some creativity. Again, it's Blake Baker's second year at the helm at LSU. So you got guys that have been in the system. And plus, he's been able to get more familiar with the guys that he has, which will give him more options now that everybody is more used to how he operates. At linebacker, Whit Weeks didn't participate in the team drills or any kind of contact type drills. So this past weekend, you had Wes Weeks and you also had Tylen Singleton at linebacker. So it's good to see Singleton get some run with the ones because one of your biggest question marks on defense is your linebacker depth. We think we're going to be good at linebacker, right? So, of course, you got Whit Weeks coming back, and Devon Keys came on last year. What do you have behind them? We don't know. Singleton, very athletic kid, played safety in high school out of Manny, moved to linebacker at LSU. So to see him get those first team reps, it shows a little bit of the belief that the staff has in him. Anytime you're getting coached, your position coach is also the DC. That can't hurt. He's super familiar with what you can do, your strengths and weaknesses, and plus to get that one-on-one time with him. So that's an encouraging sign as far as having depth. You already had Whit Weeks getting an injury last year, and God forbid he has another one, but it's just a lot to ask. You're going to have injuries at some point across the board. So you got to go more than 2 or 3 deep. You need some more guys to step up. It looks like Singleton is starting that process, and it'll be interesting to see who can come along behind Singleton. You're talking about linebackers, you got to talk about Harold Perkins. Even though he's at the star now, we know that Perkins he's gonna move all over the place. He might be at star, he also might be at linebacker, as he was at practice in some 4-3 situations, and he'll line up at end at sometimes just to rush the passer. We all know that Perkins can rush the passer. The encouraging thing has been seeing him in pass coverage. He's actually graded out pretty decent in pass coverage to this point in his career. But if you look at him in a starting role at star, which is similar to nickel, you still might be a little hesitant you're not as confident in him in the slot. He can cover a tight end, but you got some creative offensive minds that you're going against. So you worry about guys scheming him up, getting a quick slot guy on him, but he's been very solid. He had some good reps against Bauer Sharp this past weekend, and he also had a pick in practice today where he dropped back and picked off Nuss. So Perkins is looking comfortable. It's hard to tell if he's quite 100%. He's obviously effective, but it's plenty healthy enough to make a difference in this defense. And I think that you're going to see some pretty creative ways of getting him involved. I don't think Baker is going to leave him in one spot to where an offense can pick on him, or you won't have him. You don't want to have your defense to where you're predictable in what you're going to do. So I think they'll move him around and be creative with that. Also interesting to see that CJ Jimcorley, a true freshman, is backing him up at star. He's one of the backups at star, and it looks like he's probably the perfect, as far as body type, the perfect match for that position. He's a little big for a safety, and he's a true freshman, so he'll only get bigger. Probably not quite ready to play linebacker yet. So we'll be interested to see what Jimcorley is able to do onto your secondary. This is where we'll also see a lot of mixing and matching, a lot of different lineups. One of the constants that we've seen so far is Mansour Delane, transfer out of Virginia Tech, and Delane is going to start. That's pretty much locked in. It comes down to who's going to start with him, and Ashton Stamps he's been very solid. Stamps has improved every year. I've talked about it before. He had to play earlier than what he should have had to play, but he's as competitive a guy as you have on a team. He's gotten better. He's playing the ball better, especially last year. He really came on and had a lot of pass deflections. But Stamps will be fighting along with some other guys that are in the program and guys that are coming in, like Jakeem Jackson. Jakeem Jackson got some run with the ones, transfer out of Florida. And PJ Woodland had an awesome day Saturday. Woodland was all over the place, breaking up passes, got an interception. Woodland is a year older, a year stronger, and that was really his only detriment last year was his size and his strength. He got pushed around a little bit, but LSU is deeper in the secondary, particularly at corner, but really both corner and safety. They're deeper than they've been at some time, and there's reason to be a lot more confident in this defense, especially if they're getting the pass rush that we think we're going to get with guys like Patrick Payton and a healthy Harold Perkins. Can't forget about DJ Pickett, all-world DJ Pickett, listed at 6'5" now, 6'5", 195 as a cornerback. So he's still running with the second team. With the way he's playing, it's just going to be hard to keep him off the field. But for now, he's still running with the second team. And he's getting some good run. He's having some good reps. He's winning some. He's losing some. But physically, you won't see many guys like him, period. Moving out to the safety position, of course, we're still rotating a lot of guys. Your constant has been A.J. Halsey out of Houston, transfer out of Houston. Halsey is going to play, and he's been very competitive with his pass defense. Said before, he's known as a run-stopping safety. He'll come up, he'll come downhill, help in run support, but he's playing the ball well. He's been aggressive, very aggressive. So Halsey's making plays. It's going to come down to who's going to start alongside of him. And Cooley, Tamarcus Cooley from NC State has also been very solid. But Cooley is a guy that's versatile, and you'll see him moving around. So Cooley also played some nickel at practice. And in those instances, you'll see a guy like Deshaun Spears come in at safety. He's had some run with the ones. Also, Jordan Gilbert, who was your starting safety last year and played through some injuries. So, again, safety is deeper, but they'll have to settle in on some starters. But I also think you got an opportunity to kind of play guys according to what you need on defense. You got certain guys like Spears. He's a great cover safety, obvious passing situations. You can get him in, slide Cooley down and nickel. I think Blake Baker will have a lot more options than he's had so far at LSU, just due to the personnel being what it is. You've improved at every level, whether it's guys that have been on campus and have developed, or it's guys that you have gone and recruited out of the portal and out of high school who are coming in ready to play. So we can expect good things, big things from this defense in 25. Offensively, one of your bigger takeaways, probably the biggest takeaway so far from practice, is the depth at wide receiver. LSU is absolutely loaded at wide receiver. Your leading receiver from last year, Aaron Anderson, has missed the last couple of days. They apparently cleaned up some issues he had with his knee. So he's been in the sleeve, and Kelly said today that he's expecting Anderson to be back at practice on Wednesday. So good thing is it looks like it's nothing serious. But if you could afford for a guy to go down at any position, it's wide receiver. Like Kelly said, he's got 8 guys, and he's not exaggerating. He's 8 deep with receivers who are ready to play, not just guys that can contribute, guys that can make a difference. The great thing about it is you have a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different body types. You got guys that can get deep. You got guys with big bodies that can go over the middle. And you got guys like Kyle Parker and Aaron Anderson who are just a terror in the open field. You get these guys some space, and you're asking a lot for anybody to tackle them in the open field. Now, speaking of that depth, one of your bigger stories has been the emergence of Destin Hill. All the talk after the transfer class arrived was about Nick Anderson, who was great at Oklahoma, and Barry and Brown at Kentucky. Both of these guys are great in their own right. They're going to be impactful players. Glad to see Nick Anderson is looking healthy. But Destin Hill was the guy that stole the show on the first day of practice, and he's been impactful ever since. Hill is a Florida State transfer, originally from New Orleans, former car guy who's had a lot of injuries at Florida State that kind of kept him from showing what he could do. Before we get past that, just got to say this about Carr with the amount of people they put in college ball. LSU has three of them, three Carr receivers, and Destin Hill, Aaron Anderson, and Teron Francis, the true freshman. So when it comes to producing wide receiver, Carr is the LSU of high schools. Now, back to LSU. Destin Hill's been all over the place. He's making catches in traffic. He's looking healthy. He's more filled out. He's even getting run with the ones right now for a guy who was an afterthought. I'll admit, even on one of my columns for Last Word on Sports, I'm doing a wide receiver room preview earlier this year, and I didn't even include him. It's no slight to him. He's just been hurt, so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. No longer. He's no longer out of sight and out of mind. Destin Hill is going to make an impact. And you just have a lot of options there, too. Barry and Brown stepped into the first team, getting those reps when Aaron Anderson went down. Brown is another deep threat. He had a big day on Saturday. Even though the offense had a kind of tough day Saturday, Barry and Brown was solid. And also, you can't forget about guys like Kyle Parker, who got some run with the ones today. Parker is not the biggest guy. He was just recruited, even though he was a four-star guy out of Texas. But people forget that he climbed up the depth chart last year against some tight competition. And he made plays against UCLA, against South Carolina. He just got hurt. He got hurt, but he's still good. He's back. He's looking healthy. He's looking as quick as he ever was. And that is probably going to be your strongest position on offense. Now, your most important position on offense is the O-line. And that's going to be another big takeaway out of the three. The O-line is a big deal right now, and you're starting to see it take shape. You now have an established starting center in Braylon Moore out of Virginia Tech. Moore's going to start at center. So far, you've seen a lot of DJ Chester at left guard, Tyree Adams at left tackle, Josh Thompson at right guard, and Weston Davis at right tackle. The guards are going to work themselves out. Cohen Eccles is a name you want to look out for. He'll be fighting DJ Chester. He'll really be fighting for both spots, but I honestly think that Thompson is going to be able to hold down his spot. But DJ Chester will be fighting it out with Cohen Eccles for their left guard spot. And that's a good thing because it just speaks to the depth that you have. And anytime, the more competition you got, the better you're going to be, the more prepared you're going to be. And you're really going to get the best out of your players when they know they have to fight for every snap they get. Now, a big positive from what we've seen so far is your right tackle. We didn't see a lot of Weston Davis last year. He was a five-star recruit, super athletic, former basketball player, but we just didn't know what he could do. And he's been solid. I spoke on the line having some struggles on Saturday, but most of those were in your 11-on-11 settings. You also had one-on-ones, and Weston more than held his own in one-on-one. So what that tells you is it's not a talent question. It's not a question of if this guy is good enough to play at this position. It's more of a rep question, like how many reps can we get him? And that goes for this line as a whole to get him ready for the season. You can always get better at the mental part of the game, and experience is gonna help. But if you're not talented, you're just not talented. There's not a lot you can do about that. If you're not physically ready to play right tackle, then there's only so much coaching you can do. So you do have the physical talent there, and that's encouraging. Now, nothing is a given. It still has to come together. The quicker LSU can solidify this first five, the better off you're going to be going up against Clemson when you got at least 2 first rounders on that defensive line. So this is an important part of the team, but we have seen things that should encourage you as LSU fans. Speaking of your line, Kelly spoke today about the development of Trey Green as a blocking tight end, an extension of your offensive line. We know that you got Bauer Sharp out of Oklahoma, who was their leading receiver last year as a tight end. You also got Trey Green, and Green has been making some awesome plays. Green has been making downfield plays Saturday, today. He's been all over the place. He is an explosive weapon, freak of an athlete, and he is a matchup nightmare. But just like we spoke about Perkins on defense, you don't want to make your offense predictable as far as, okay, Trey Green is in the game, so you know they're passing. They're not going to ask him to block. So Green has to come along as a blocker, and the good thing is, as Kelly said today, he's willing. So it's a matter of coaching him up, putting him in the right position to succeed, the best position to succeed. If a guy is willing to block, then you can work with him. Sometimes that freakish size he has can be a detriment when you're 6'7". How do you get leverage? But that just comes with experience. But in order for LSU to run some of these 2 tight end sets, line up in 12 and be unpredictable, he'll have to come along. But he's only a sophomore, so nobody's saying that he can't do that. At the running back position, so we know Caden Durham is going to be your starting running back. And Durham had a great day today at fall camp. Didn't get much going in the run game over the weekend, but Durham looked good. He's your established starter. What do you have behind him? Harlem Berry, true freshman, 5-star guy to New Orleans. Berry has been very impactful. He's also gotten some run with the ones. And you know he's not going to take a starting job. You look at what Durham did last year. But for him to get run with the ones, it speaks to what the coaching staff expects out of him. This guy's going to be a big part of the offense. And even though Durham is explosive, Berry brings something different. Berry is he's a nightmare. Like in two-hand touch, it's hard to get him. He's very elusive. He's fast. And he's a threat out of the backfield as a receiver. So this is a guy that can take it to the house from anywhere on the field at any time. It's good to see him getting that time with the ones and see the confidence that the coaches have in him. Caleb Jackson is having some ups and downs. Jackson, you know he has it physically. He came on as a freshman and he just looked like he was going to terrorize the league for 3-4 years, but it might be a weight thing, it might be a mental thing, but he's not finding much room so far. But you also, the best thing I've seen so far out of the running game is the creativity from the offense. You got Juwan Johnson, who got some time as a freshman last year. Had him playing running back, quarterback, anywhere they can get him because he's such a good athlete. He played quarterback in high school at Lafayette. But he's one of those guys who's just good with the ball in his hands, and he allows your offense to be more creative. One of the biggest issues LSU had last year, in my opinion, you didn't stick with the run. You weren't going to be a running team at any point, but you abandoned it too quickly. Besides that, you were too predictable. Everything was inside read. Everything was read-based. Zone-based, inside zone. Not a lot of creativity with that offense. You get guys like Johnson and Xavier Thomas in the backfield. We also saw some of that this weekend. And now you're not so predictable. You know, you can run a dive, you can run a counter, you can put somebody in jet sweep motion. maybe he'll keep it, maybe he'll hand it off. But when you got a guy like an Aaron Anderson or Thomas coming in jet speed motion, the defense has to respect it. So that's forcing your defensive ends to play honest, your linebackers to have good eyes, and it just puts more stress on the defense than it does when you turn around and hand it to a guy and tell him, find your zone. That's it's encouraging. It's encouraging to see more creativity from this offense, and it's necessary because you're gonna have to have more of a run game if you plan on getting where you want to go. If you want to be this playoff team, we're hearing all this talk, we're going to win a championship, we're going to the playoffs. Well, you're not going to do any of that being one-dimensional. Nussmeier is great. He might be first quarterback taken off the board in 26. Who knows? He'll definitely be in the conversation, and he'll be a first-round pick, barring disaster. But you can't ask him to completely carry the team with no threat of a running game. And the key word there is threat. You're not going to run for 200 yards a game. You're not that type of team. But you got to at least present the threat of the run to keep the defense honest and keep Nussmeier off his butt. So, like I said, we've had a lot to take away from fall camp so far. Every day has been something new. You got a lot of guys stepping up. I want to go back to Chris Hilton because you get so much talk about your new guys, but Hilton is one of your most physically impressive guys on the team. Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, every year he comes out with his freaks list, and he goes all over the country finding players with the freakiest athleticism, stuff that you don't see, that you shouldn't see. But these guys are just so blessed to have crazy talent. And LSU actually had two guys on this list this year. Dominic McKinley was one of them. But Chris Hilton, he has the fastest recorded GPS in LSU history at, 23.7 miles per hour on the GPS. He's been timed in the 4.2s. He gets deep as easily as anybody since Brian Thomas. You can't say that he's the complete receiver that Thomas is yet, but as far as getting deep, it's effortless with Hilton. It's a different offense. You saw that late last year. It's a different offense with him in the game because he gets behind the defense so easily. So we don't want to throw guys away when they get hurt. Just wanted to point that out. And not only for Hilton's sake, but just to reestablish the fact that this is going to be a different offense. With Hilton out last year, you weren't in a position a lot of times to really threaten the defense. You had defenses coming up, and they know they could get pressure because LSU wasn't going to run the ball. So you didn't have that deep threat. You had fast guys like Anderson and Thomas, but that deep threat that strikes fear, like a Hilton or a Brian Thomas. So it's going to be a lot easier for Nussmeier. You got that deep threat that opens up everything underneath, but it also makes it easier for your running game when you got a guy that can stretch the field like that. So, okay, we talked about fall camp, but we also had a pretty big recruiting weekend. Big-time recruiting weekend. You had 2 defensive line commitments in 2 days, and it started with Darius McKinley. Darius McKinley is a guy out of Acadiana High School. Of course, the younger brother of Dominic McKinley, who is currently at LSU. Just 1 second, I'm going to pull up his film. And McKinley can ball. McKinley can ball in his own right. Yeah, he's the younger brother of Dominic McKinley, but this isn't like a legacy type deal. This isn't something to keep Dominic happy. He can play in his own right. You see him here against Ruston, one of the best programs in the state. They can't block him. You'll see other film against Zachary. They're trying to double team him. He just takes the double team and moves him where he wants to move him. Look at he's dominant. He plays at 6'1", 270. No, 6'3", 270, but he looks bigger than that on the field by the way he plays. He plays bigger than that because he's so strong. He imposes his will. He's not the twitchiest guy, but he just imposes his will at the line of scrimmage. He resets the line of scrimmage. You definitely need guys like that at D tackle. 3-star guy, but don't get caught up in the stars. This is a guy who chose LSU over Florida, Texas, with 2 of his finalists, but you name it, they offered him. Texas A&M, Tennessee. So his offer sheet says all you need to know about his level of talent. McKinley, he'll probably have another big year, and you can probably see that rating go up. And to me, it doesn't really matter if that ranking goes up or not because he can play, and that's what's most important in recruiting. Stars are great, but you got a guy that can play. Your second commitment of the weekend came in Deuce Gerald's. Gerald's he was a more highly recruited guy. 4-star guy. ESPN had him as the 2nd-rated D tackle in the country. Gerald's is a freak. You know, we just talked about McKinley and Hilton, but Gerald's is an absolute freak. You see him at 6'1", 275, and yeah, that's him playing running back. You see him getting to the edge and playing running back, outrunning people. He's not playing running back to where you give it to the big guy and he falls forward for the first down. No, this guy is getting up the field. He's taking wildcat snaps. He's taking direct snaps, reading blocks, and getting up the field like a true running back. On the line, he'll play some inside, some out. He'll be an inside guy for LSU at D tackle. But he has defensive end traits to where he can bend. He's got that explosiveness off the line, but he gets by you, he dips his shoulder, he can bend and get to the quarterback on balance, under control. Very explosive first step. This guy is a freak, and I guess the apple didn't fall far. Interesting recruiting with Gerald's. Gerald's dad is from Baton Rouge. He's from Scotlandville, played at Scotlandville High. Got recruited by Coach O, and Frank Wilson was his primary recruiter when Coach O was at Ole Miss. So Frank Wilson got Gerald's dad to Ole Miss, and now he comes in and he gets the son to LSU. So Gerald's is going to be a difference maker. He'll be ready to play. He just got a different type of athleticism at the position. And we spoke earlier about the importance of depth at that position, bringing guys in fresh. LSU, you got to give the staff credit for what they've done in building the depth back at that position. Past couple of years, it's been a bit of a question mark. Ever since Mason Smith left, you kind of put him in a bind, and nothing against Smith. He had to do what he had to do. He got drafted 2nd round, so he made the right call. But the team itself struggled. You had to play some guys who weren't ready, and that's not a position where you can afford to just have serviceable guys. You got to have difference makers, and the Tigers are well on their way to having that dominant interior defensive line again. So now that's 4 guys in this class, and for the 26th class, LSU's defensive line is the best by far. It's not even close. You got the 2 that we just talked about. You also have Lamar Brown out of U-High, #1 athlete or #1 D tackle, depending on the recruiting service. Either way, this is an elite guy, unquestioned best player in the state. And you also have Richard Anderson, who's ranked as the #1 or 2 D tackle, depending on which site you want to go by. Richard Anderson out of Carr. They're absolutely loading up, and this is after a DT heavy class in 25. So you're stacking these classes back to back. You're getting that depth that you need to return to the days where LSU has a feared defense, not a good enough defense, but a defense that is gonna put first rounders in the league from that defensive line. First team All SEC guys, not just guys. You can't get by with just guys. And we can't leave out the edge players also. You got guys like DeAnthony Lafayette at edge out of Florida that's also in this class. Five-star Trenton Henderson at edge that's also in this class. So the more you stack these classes, the easier it's going to be for Blake Baker to return LSU to the glory days. So on that note, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, CFB Lou. Follow me on TikTok, CFB Lou. Like, subscribe, comment, like it again. Till next time, I'll see y'all. It's the LSU Live on the Voice of College Football. Later.